After refusing to lend my parents money for a family business, they faked an elder abuse complaint claiming I neglected their care. They even showed up to court in wheelchairs, despite being seen dancing at a barbecue the weekend before. The judge saw through it immediately. I countersued for malicious prosecution, won, and used the settlement money to buy a house 3 states away. I'm not someone who ever thought they'd cut ties with their own parents. I grew up thinking family was supposed to mean loyalty, love, and showing up for each other no matter what. But what do you do when your own parents decide to make you their target? When they'd rather ruin your life than accept the word no? I learned the hard way. This story starts in Pueblo, Colorado. That's where I was born and raised, and where I lived until everything blew up. I'm 39 now, single, no kids, working full-time as a logistics coordinator for a medical supply company. My life was simple. I had a small house, a good dog named Casper, and finally a stable income after years of fighting to stay afloat. I wasn't rich, but I wasn't in survival mode anymore either. And that felt like a win. I didn't owe anyone anything, especially not my parents. So here's how it started. In late 2021, my parents invited me over for dinner. They were acting all cheerful and upbeat, which already made me suspicious. Usually, they only called when they needed help moving furniture, picking up meds, or wanted money for something vague like emergency car repairs. That night, they sat me down and pitched their big idea. They wanted to open a family business. They claimed they'd found this old building off a highway exit and wanted to turn it into a combination diner and souvenir shop. Said it'd be perfect for tourists during the summer season. They even had a notebook full of made-up projections and fake enthusiasm. Then came the real ask. They wanted me to take out a $90,000 personal loan in my name. I straight up laughed. I thought they were joking. When they realized I wasn't taking the bait, everything shifted. My mom's face fell. My dad stared at me like I'd stabbed him. Then my mom started crying. Not softly either. She really laid it on thick, like I was abandoning them on the side of the road. We raised you. We did everything for you. And now you can't even help your family when we need it most, she said. They tried guilt, tears, threats, even silence. But I didn't budge. I had finally gotten to a place in life where I wasn't drowning in bills. I told them I'm not co-signing anything. I'm not putting myself in debt for a business idea that exists on paper napkins. They stormed out of my house that night. My mom called me selfish. My dad muttered something like, "You'll regret this." I didn't hear from them for 2 weeks. Then someone knocked on my door. It was a social worker from Adult Protective Services. Her name was Camille. She looked uncomfortable from the moment she stepped into my house. She said she was there to follow up on a complaint that had been filed. According to the report, I was supposed to be my parents' full-time caregiver and had been neglecting their needs, withholding medications, and financially exploiting them. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "They don't even live with me," I said, stunned. Camille said the report claimed I'd moved them into my house, took control of their bank accounts, and stopped buying their meds and groceries. It was all lies. Every word of it. I showed her around the house. No spare bedroom for them, no signs anyone else lived there. I gave her the number of my neighbor, who confirmed my parents lived across town and only stopped by every couple of months. Camille was polite, but she had a job to do. She said she'd follow up and let me know the outcome. I figured it'd all blow over once they realized it was fake. But it didn't. 3 weeks later, I got served court papers. My parents were taking me to court for elder abuse. I can't explain the feeling I had when I read those papers. It was like my brain stopped working for a few seconds. I just sat on the edge of the couch, holding the envelope, reading the same lines over and over. My own parents were trying to ruin my life. I called a lawyer the next morning. Gina was sharp, direct, and had seen her share of messed-up family cases. She didn't sugarcoat anything. "They're going to try to make you look like a monster," she said. "But you've got records. We'll hit them with the truth." I started pulling every receipt, email, and message I had. I found texts from my mom asking for money, saying things like, "Don't you care if we lose everything? And after all we've done for you." I had emails from my dad demanding I reconsider and co-sign that loan. I even had an old voicemail where my mom said, "If you don't help us with the business, don't expect us to just let it go." But the real goldmine came a few days before the hearing. A mutual friend of ours, someone who hosted neighborhood BBQs, had invited me and my parents to one. I declined. But my parents went. And guess what? They showed up laughing, drinking, and dancing. A friend of mine recorded a clip of them dancing to Ain't Too Proud to Beg. My mom was twirling around like she was 20. My dad was doing a weird shimmy with a beer in one hand. No canes. No walkers. No wheelchairs. Just full-blown party mode. The day of the hearing, they showed up in wheelchairs. I almost laughed, but I couldn't afford to. My future was on the line. If this judge bought their act, I could lose my job, my house, everything. They looked like a Hallmark movie couple. Pale clothes. Sad faces. My mom had tissues stuffed in her sleeves like she was planning for a funeral. They said I'd been emotionally abusive, that I'd cut them off from family, that I'd starved them. It was disgusting. Then it was our turn. Gina laid it all out. The messages, the receipts, and then she played the video. The courtroom went dead silent. There were my parents, dancing, laughing, shouting over the music. My dad yelling, "Still got it." My mom yelling back, "You wish." The judge stared at the screen. Then she turned to them. "Care to explain?" she asked. They just sat there. Didn't say a word. The lies were crumbling and they knew it. The case was thrown out on the spot. The judge didn't even need to deliberate. But I wasn't done. I filed a countersuit for malicious prosecution. Gina helped me build it up. She argued that they weaponized the legal system out of revenge. That their goal wasn't justice, it was punishment for not giving them money. They tried to backpedal. Tried to settle quietly. I refused. In the end, I won. Big. After legal fees, I walked away with $174,000. I sold my house in Pueblo and moved to Omaha. Bought a small home outright. No mortgage. Quiet neighborhood. Fresh start. No more surprise visits. No more guilt. They've tried calling. Left voicemails. Sent cards. I haven't responded once. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought winning the case, moving away, and cutting them off would be enough. But I was wrong. The real damage didn't show up until after I got settled in Omaha. At first, everything felt peaceful. I kept to myself, worked remotely, walked my dog in the mornings, and kept my phone on Do Not Disturb most days. I even started going to therapy, trying to untangle all the guilt and anger that still clung to me after everything. Then, about 5 months after the court ruling, I got a call from a strange number with a Colorado area code. I didn't answer. But something made me check the voicemail. It wasn't my parents. It was my aunt, my mom's sister. "Hey," she said, her voice low, like she didn't want to be heard. "I don't know what they're telling people, but it's bad. You need to know your parents are spreading rumors about you. Church, at the store, everywhere. They're saying you stole money from them, that you forged the settlement. I've tried correcting them, but they won't stop. I'm sorry." I felt sick. I hadn't talked to my aunt in over a year. She was one of the few in the family who stayed neutral when things got messy. For her to call me out of the blue like that, I knew it wasn't just gossip. They were trying to poison my name. And it was working. A week later, I got a message on Facebook from an old high school friend. "Hey, just wanted to ask, did you really take your parents' retirement and run off? I saw something on a Facebook post that made it sound like you scammed them." That's when I found it. My mom had posted on her Facebook page a long, dramatic post about how their only child had turned on them, abandoned them, and stolen their final years of stability. People were commenting things like, "How could he?" and "You deserve better, Ruby." She didn't mention the lawsuit. She didn't mention the video. She twisted the story completely. I stayed quiet at first. Thought maybe ignoring it would make it stop. But then one of her friends, someone I didn't even know, somehow got my work email and sent me a message titled, "Shame on you." Inside it said, "You'll burn for what you did. God doesn't forget." That's when I knew I had to do something. I contacted my lawyer again. Gina was pissed. "You gave them an inch and they think they own the whole damn road," she said. Time to hit back again. She drafted a cease and desist letter for defamation. Sent it certified mail. One for my mother. One for my father. One for the church where they'd apparently been spreading lies during Bible study. But that wasn't enough. I decided to go public with the real story. I posted everything. The court records. Redacted screenshots of the texts and emails. A full breakdown of what actually happened and how I had to sue them just to protect myself. I ended the post with, "This is what happens when people think love means control. I didn't destroy our family. They did. And they're still lying about it." It went semi-viral. Not huge, but enough to start a ripple. A few family friends messaged me after that. Some apologized. Some said they'd been suspicious of my parents' version of events for a while. A couple even offered to write statements if I needed them. But then came the next hit. A few days later, I checked my credit report just out of habit. There was a new inquiry, then another, and then a credit card opened in my name, but at an old address, my parents' address. They were trying to steal my identity now. I froze the account, filed a fraud report, and contacted my lawyer again. She told me to file a police report and document everything. This wasn't just family drama anymore. It was criminal. I filed the police report the next morning. The officer I spoke to was calm but serious. After I laid everything out, the court case, the smear campaign, and now the identity theft, he paused and said, "You need to understand, this is more than just family problems now. This is fraud and it's interstate." Because I'd moved to Nebraska and the fraudulent account was opened in Colorado, it crossed state lines. That meant federal laws might come into play. He referred me to a detective in the financial crimes unit. The detective's name was Dever, and she didn't waste time. She started asking for documents. Credit reports, proof of address, anything linking the fake card to my parents' house. Within a week, she confirmed the card had been activated using an IP address traced back to my dad's home computer. That was it. That was the final line. Gina filed a new case. This one wasn't civil. We were pressing criminal charges for identity theft and fraud. The detective spoke to me regularly during the investigation. I gave her access to all the old messages and emails. When she saw the history of manipulation and the lawsuit I'd already won, she shook her head and said, "These people don't stop, do they?" Then she said something that stuck with me. "They've convinced themselves they're victims. People like that don't stop until they've burned every bridge, or until someone makes them stop." While we waited for charges to be approved by the DA, I started locking down everything. New credit monitoring, alerts on all my accounts, even changed my phone number. And that's when my boss called me into a video meeting. At first, I thought it was nothing serious. Maybe a policy update. But he looked uncomfortable. Not mad, just cautious. "I received a complaint email," he said. "Anonymous. Said you're under investigation for elder abuse and fraud. Claimed your parents were being harassed." I felt the blood drain from my face. He continued. "We looked into it. HR flagged it, but after reviewing the court records and verifying your case file, you're fine. No actions being taken. But I thought you should know. They're not done with you." Couldn't believe it. Even after the courts ruled in my favor, even after the identity theft, they were still trying to ruin me. They sent lies to my employer hoping I'd get fired. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I felt hunted. I knew what I had to do. I hired a private investigator. It wasn't cheap, but I needed to know if this was all coming directly from them, or if they had someone helping them. The PI worked fast. Within a couple weeks, he had phone records, financial activity, even social media monitoring. He confirmed what I already suspected. My cousin, my mother's nephew, who I hadn't seen in years, had been helping them. He was the one who'd set up the fake card application and routed the email complaint through a masked server. Apparently, they told him I abandoned them after stealing their retirement. And he bought it. They even promised him a cut of whatever they could squeeze out of me. That was the final twist. My own family member was in on it. Not because he hated me, but because they fed him lies and offered him money. The DA filed formal charges. Next came subpoenas. My parents were going to face criminal court, and now so was my cousin. They were being charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and harassment. And somehow, despite everything, they still played innocent. My dad told the officer who served him, "He's trying to destroy us." But the truth was already out there. The criminal trial started that fall. By then, almost a year had passed since the original elder abuse complaint. It felt like I'd been living inside a long, twisted nightmare. And now it was finally dragging into the light. My parents showed up to court dressed in black like they were attending a funeral. This time, no wheelchairs, no tears. Just tight faces and arms crossed like they were the ones being wronged. My cousin sat a few rows back, pale and quiet. He didn't even look at me, probably because he'd already cut a deal with the DA, testifying against my parents in exchange for reduced charges. I watched him take the stand and tell the court how my mother and father had cooked up the whole scheme, how they told him I owed them and deserved to be taught a lesson, how they gave him my social security number and helped him apply for the card. When the prosecutor asked why he went along with it, he just said, "I thought I was helping them get what they were owed." I see now I was wrong. My mother hissed something under her breath. My dad's face went red. It was hard to sit there, hearing all of it laid out so cold and factual. The lies, the manipulation, the lengths they went to just to punish me for saying no. But what hurt the most was realizing they never thought they'd face consequences. They really believed they were above it all. The verdict came in after 4 days. Guilty. All 3 of them guilty of identity theft, fraud, and malicious harassment. My cousin got probation and a fine. He'd never had a record and he cooperated. My father got 18 months in county jail. My mother got 10 months and 5 years of supervised release. The judge called it one of the most disgraceful abuses of family ties she'd ever seen. After the sentencing, I didn't feel happy. Not really. There was no joy in watching my own mother be led out of a courtroom in handcuffs. There was no victory in watching my father break down, crying in front of a judge like he hadn't just tried to destroy his own son's life. I felt empty, and that's when I realized something else. I wasn't innocent either. I wasn't guilty of a crime, no. But I let them back in too many times. I ignored the red flags. I convinced myself they could change. I gave in out of guilt, out of obligation, out of some twisted sense of duty. I didn't draw hard lines when I should have. I didn't protect myself sooner. That's a mistake I'll never make again. A month after the trial, I took a trip back to Colorado not to visit anyone, but to finalize the sale of a small property I inherited from my grandmother before things went south. It was an old mobile home in the outskirts of Cannon City. I didn't want to keep it. When I pulled up, I saw something that stopped me cold. There, sitting on the porch, was my dad. Out early on work release. He looked smaller somehow. Older. Weathered. He didn't say a word when he saw me. Just looked down at the ground like he couldn't believe I'd actually shown up. I didn't speak either. I turned, got back in my car, and called my realtor. Told him to sell it as is, no repairs, no cleanup. I drove away without looking back. Today, I live in peace. Not movie peace. Not some perfect, happy ending. But real peace. The kind where I can sleep without checking my locks twice. The kind where I don't wake up to voicemails full of guilt. The kind where no one's using my last name to twist the truth. I still get the occasional message from old family members trying to patch things up or get the full story. I delete them all. I told my story. In court. In public. I didn't run from it and I didn't hide the parts that hurt. They made their choices. And I made mine. This is where it ends.